The Edmonton Oilers made some moves this offseason. It's no surprise, and I talked about it quite a bit during the summer. Broberg and Holloway out, Arvidsson and Skinner in. Cody Ceci and Ryan McLeod out, Ty Emberson and Matt Savoy in, along with a few more moves they made along the way. In today's video, I'll be giving you my thoughts on if I think this year's Edmonton Oilers is better than last year's team. So, if you're new to the channel, as always, thanks for the continued support. Drop a comment down below as I read every single one. And Above Average is back, baby. So yeah, in this video, I'll be looking at the offense, the defense, and the goaltending, and then at the end of the video, I'll just give you my all-around thoughts. Starting with the offense. I don't think it's any surprise that the offense has gotten better. When you bring in actual players with proven records to help out this team, and it's primarily going to be helping out this guy, and as we saw last year, Leon had a great season, but he wasn't as fortunate as McDavid, and we constantly see him having to change line mates game after game, and those line mates were not nearly as good as Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson. So top 6 is significantly better. Bottom 6, I also do think it's better. If you're a new Oilers fan, I will say the one thing they haven't had in many years is a competitive, consistent third line. I honestly can't remember the last time they had a third line that was good. It might have been when Mark Letestu was here, and I think he was on a line with Matt Hendricks as well. And there was a point where Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was the third line center with Derek Ryan and Zach Kassian. But aside from that, they were never consistent. And this year, I do think that the Oilers have a consistent, good third line. As we saw in last year's playoffs, those guys really showed up. And even if this third line isn't getting the job done, they have more than enough options to put certain players wherever they want them. And you couldn't really do this last year. I mean, you could, but the Oilers definitely have more options this year. And as for the fourth line, I mean, show me a team in the NHL that has an unbelievable fourth line. I'll wait. Yeah, in my opinion, every fourth line in the NHL kind of cancels each other out because they don't really move the needle that much. And right now it's Vasily Podkolzin, Derek Ryan, and Corey Perry. I mean, I guess you could say that's a better fourth line that they've had in years prior, but is this fourth line going to be a game changer? I don't think so, but who knows? Vasily Podkolzin, I'm kind of bullish on this guy. I'm excited to see what he does. And then you got two vets that aren't really the fastest anymore, so who knows? And it is preseason. There could be some change. Does Hoffman get on the fourth line? Do they sign him? Time will tell with that. And then Noah Philp obviously is kind of making a name for himself in that locker room right now. He scored a pretty shifty goal last night as well. So this could change, but as far as fourth lines go, this is it's decent. It's a decent fourth line. So just judging by offense, yes, this team has gotten significantly better. And I don't really think you can argue that. Okay, now defense. This also isn't a surprise, but the Oilers' defense has gotten worse. But has it got much worse? Time will tell. Look, I get the Oilers lost Broberg, which I may or may not still be butthurt about. They lost Vinny Desharnais, who I wasn't completely a big fan of, and they lost Cody Ceci, who got ripped apart almost as much as Darnell Nurse. They lost all three of those guys, but were they significant game changers? No, not really. So I do think the Oilers' defense has gotten more thin for sure, but the defensemen they lost weren't the defensemen that made this team so good last year. They still got Ekholm, they still got Bouchard, and whether you like him or not, they still got Darnell Nurse. And here's hoping Nurse has a good year. I'm happy Stecher will be in over Vinny. As if you're new to the channel, I wasn't big on Vinny Desharnais. I thought he was slow. I thought the play just stopped whenever the puck came to his stick. He didn't have a good first pass, and I'm blown away that as many Oilers fans loved him as much as they did. So I think Stecher actually is an improvement over Vinny Desharnais, and time will tell if I'm right on that. Overall, I do think the defense has gotten a little worse, and I guess time will tell how much worse they got. This is one thing I will be watching very closely into the season, and if the goings get rough, I would not be surprised if they add another defenseman. They have to. I don't think you can win a cup with these guys on your decor. And I think that's pretty fair to say. I think any Oilers fan right now is kind of looking at the defense and kind of like, oh gosh, it's pretty thin. That is a concern for sure, because if any of the big guys get injured, watch out. That defense was, maybe not the best. It's in the middle of the pack right now, but you lose Ekholm, you lose Bouchard. It goes from pretty okay defense to really bad, really bad. I don't know who you're going to have replace Bouchard, or especially Ekholm. Ekholm is what Oilers fans want Nurse to be. And here's hoping Nurse can maybe be that guy one day. But it's very thin, so keep an eye on the defense. They're obviously going to have to address something going forward. And then lastly, the goaltending. The one thing that didn't change over the offseason. This is very interesting. They're sticking with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, and I mean, why not? That tandem did bring you to the Stanley Cup final last year in Game 7, which is just crazy to think. Has it sunk in? Has it sunk in? Like, it's hockey's back, and, you know, I was working every single game last year. If you don't know, I'm a producer for Edmonton Sports Talk, so I was producing pre and post games last year, and like, it still hasn't sunk in that the Oilers were in the Stanley Cup final. Maybe it was because I was working and I couldn't be much of a fan to enjoy everything, but just looking back at it, I'm just like, that's crazy. Like, as if I waited my whole life for that. And yeah, it just feels weird. But besides the point, Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard, what are your guys' thoughts on them? Personally, man, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of the people in the media regarding Stuart Skinner think he's like all time. Like, a lot of people say, no, he's a guy, he's a bona fide number one. And, you know, at work, I say, like, I don't know, is it a hot take? I'm still not quite sold on Stuart Skinner. He has some good games, but then he has bad games. And I feel like if you compare, you know, bona fide number one goalies in the league, they are really consistent. And that's like one thing Stuart Skinner isn't quite there yet, you know? He's not the most consistent goaltender. Can he win you a game? Yes. But he can also lose you quite a few games, and I think he lost Oilers more games than he won last year. You know, credit to the bad start. The Oilers' defense was horrendous. You can't lay it all on Stuart Skinner, but I don't know, man. Like, I'm still not quite sold. You have to consider the fact that he is still young. Like, he's my age. He's 25, right? There's not a lot of goalies that are number one goalies in the NHL at 25 years old, especially in the Canadian market. All the pressure in the world. So you got to think about that. But, like, I don't know. What do you guys think about Stuart Skinner? Are you guys sold on him? I think he's in the middle of a pack. I'm not as, like, there's some people saying, like, that he's going to be a Vezina finalist this year, and I do not believe that whatsoever. I think he's, like, probably the 15th best goalie in the NHL right now. Like, that's kind of what you got. And then you got Calvin Pickard, who at times, I mean, he looked pretty good in last year's playoffs. This might be another hot take, but I think that maybe, did he look better in his, 2 games that he played? They obviously went back to Stuart Skinner, and he almost took him to the promised land, but Calvin Pickard all season last year, when called upon, he did his job. I'm not so worried about him. He did get injured the last night, so time will tell what's going forward with them. They got Olivia Rodrigue in the minors as well, so could he be the backup for it? Like, I'm not too concerned about the goaltending. It can get the job done, but I'm also not saying that's the best goaltending in the world like some other people are, because, and it's crazy that some people are saying that, because I'm so not saying that. Like, I think the Oilers' goaltending is okay. Like, Stuart Skinner is okay. Could he have a monster season this year? Maybe. You know, he's still young. There is that, but I don't know. I haven't seen enough from him to give him that. No, he is a for sure bona fide number one starter yet. Here's hoping I'm wrong, and this season he progresses the right way, which a lot of people seem to be, you know, confident he can do. So as far as goaltending goes, I'm just going to say maybe it stayed the same, maybe a little bit better though, because, you know, Stuart Skinner is a year older and he's young, right? So he's got a little bit more experience. He's learning quite a bit. He's with the big boys. He's practicing every day. So I think maybe he got a little bit better, but Calvin Pickard, he probably stayed the same. So I think Oilers goaltending, it stayed the same. So if you made it this far, drop a comment down below. Is this year's Oilers team better than last year's? I will say this, I think this year's Oilers team will play better in the regular season. I think they'll finish with more points. I think they're going to finish first in the Pacific Division. But that being said, do I think that they can go to the Stanley Cup Finals? I don't know. And you know, does that make them not a better team if this year's team gets more points than last year's team in the regular season? Technically, they'd be the better team. But if they don't go further in the playoffs, does that make them better? I don't know. So I think they are. So I think they are a little bit better, but it doesn't matter if they're a little bit better. Sometimes you can have a better team and not go further in the playoffs, which is just a whole wormhole of conversations, and we'll save that for a later day. But yes, if you're new to the channel, I do think that the Edmonton Oilers are a little bit better this year. You got to keep in mind, they did get older, they did get slower, but the players that got older aren't really like the core of this team. The players that got older are Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, you know, Evan Bouchard, who those three alone, like, you know, it's a good thing that they're getting older. And when they're getting older, they're getting better essentially. So you have to keep in mind with that. But again, they did get slower. Ryan McLeod out. Warren Foegele, he has some wheels. So that'll be interesting. You know, those are key penalty killers as well. Maybe not key penalty killers, but they're penalty killers. So I'm on the fence, guys. What do you think? Drop a comment down below. And as always, thank you for all the continued support. If you made it this far, leave a like. And yeah, I just want to say, sorry I took a little bit of a break, but we're back. Above Average is back and better than ever. This season's going to be amazing. Got some great news, and I'm dropping a video tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. That's where I'm dropping, you know, cool said news. Pretty sweet, just going forward with the channel, what to expect from the channel this year, what kind of videos I'm going to be laying out going forward. Dropping that tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, guys, I'm just, I needed a quick, you know, break. I took like 15 days off there, so I apologize, but I needed to just zen, you know, just inner peace. I had to find my inner peace because it was busy last year. It really was, but I took that time off and I'm back and better than ever. So don't be average when you could be above average. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take her easy. Peace.